All right, 6:30, let's get this show on the road. Hopefully Dan will show up. Got a quorum. No, everybody's here except for Dan at this point. Let's see, certification, everything's done on that. So we'll move to the visitors and guests introductions.
Lori Kramer, citizen, friends of the library, and I got a little extra to talk about tonight. Quick, brief, maybe. Thank you.
Dan's here.
But that'll be at a different time.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'm James Deline, a citizen of Hudson, and just here to hear what's going on and offer up my opinion on the Moore system.
Steve Anderson with the Friends of the Library, and I'm also one of the county representatives to the IFLS board.
Okay.
I'm John Thompson, I'm director of the IFLS. Gus Falkenberg, IFLS employee.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody. And hopefully we'll have a very informative meeting tonight. I'm sure we will. Let's see. Everybody had a chance to look at the agenda?
I'll make the motion, we approve the agenda, not in any particular order.
Second. Agenda's been moved and seconded, not in any particular order. I said that wrong, didn't I?
No,
Okay.
Okay, you can have first.
All right, Barb?
I think that number 13, actually, that committee no longer exists because its work has been completed, so
Okay.
we can remove that as an agenda.
All right, so it's been moved that we strike that. Okay, so that's an amendment to the motion?
I will move that amendment.
Okay, you second to that? Friendly, accepted as friendly? Marion?
I'll second.
Okay, fine. No, just don't want people watching. All right, so the agenda has been moved and seconded with the deletion of number 13. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes, agenda is approved. And then we go to the date for the next regular meeting. Everybody have that on their calendar? And then we're looking at the minutes in from the previous board meeting. Any additions, deletions, corrections?
I did see one correction. Number 11, B2. The negative 68,890 should be a positive.
Can you say that again, please?
Number 11, B2. The report on net revenue and expenditures.
Okay,
The
so,
variance of 134,000 is actually the difference between a negative 67,000 and a positive 68,000.
Okay, good catch.
the other information that's not included here relates to Director's Report 7E. At the conclusion of the meeting, I agreed to take the lead on gathering board input with regard to Linda's evaluation, and hopefully working with my colleague to the left here on excuse me? Yeah. On consolidating the evaluation information and preparing the evaluation. So I don't, it was a commitment I made, but I don't know that it was documented by motions. So I don't know if you want.
It didn't have to be.
It didn't have to be. Okay, so, okay.
That could just, you could just enter that under 70, the volunteer to take the lead. Probably could be amended such.
Sure.
I haven't seen it until tonight, so apologize.
So how do you want to do that?
So I would move that we approve, or did somebody already?
No,
make a motion?
before we do that, I'm just curious about any other additions, deletions.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I do have. I still on item 14, on the motion for the lease. I sent an email to Dave, I didn't hear back after the meeting. I still do not know why or how it's not a conflict of interest for the city representatives to vote to spend $660,000 with the city. The city, when it comes to the lease, is nothing.
Are you, I think that's more substantive. We're just talking
Well-
about if there is a.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna say, that I'm gonna vote no on that agenda because of that.
Well, is it correct or not?
I don't think it's legal.
No, is it correct?
Are the minutes
Are the minutes correct?
Yeah. Correct is what happened, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Any other additions or deletions? Okay, all right, so I'll entertain a motion with those noted corrections.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of approval of the minutes from the December meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions?
I'd still like
The
to-
minutes are adopted.
As far as that item on the minutes, I'd still like maybe the city attorney to advise us as to why or how that's legal.
Well, we could perhaps put that on the agenda for a future meeting.
I'd like it on the next agenda then.
Okay. All right, citizen comments. Gloria?
Yes, I'll combine. I'll do friends first. Just to let everyone who hasn't ever been here before, we collect the receipts from Family Fresh Supermarket that you all spend over there. And I would like to see you in there at least once a week buying something. And they bring the receipts to us, and when we have $150,000 worth of receipts, we receive a $1,000 check from Family Fresh. That store is very, very community oriented, and would love to see all of you over there at least once a week. As of January 9, our total account right now is $48,460.30. So we are a third of the way on getting to our 150 requirement.
Nice.
I get excited about that. I just love that kind of news.
When did that begin, Gloria?
This is as of January 9, as we, close out the books, and then that's what we have now.
Okay, oh, excellent.
Okay. Also, we record the volunteer hours that are performed here in the lobby, in the library for services. So up to now, this is going to be about 2 weeks ago. Based on a 40-hour week, we have enough volunteer hours for 2.3 employees. So I just use minimum wage on that. We have received $596 worth of labor for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
How can you not like that? I love it, I love it, I love it. Now, my other little part, I had the great good fortune to be invited to a board meeting of a nonprofit in St. Paul. And I went, first of all, because I like the company, but secondly, because I wanted to learn what do boards do besides the ones that I know here. They also had to have someone evaluate their finances and their procedures and all kinds of stuff, like we did last year or the year before, whatever that person was. first of all, everyone on their board is pro-company. There's no negative business, pro-company. Their board members are invited by the business, the company that I go to. And as part of their nomination, they are required to give up their time or the talent or the product of the company that they work for. So it can be time, can be services, can be labor, can be an item, can be nothing. And the thing that impressed me is that they invite these individuals to be on their board, and they are all positive for that company. They don't have any negatives there. And they have been able to turn themselves around because of the input from all of these different individuals on their board. And I would really like to see something like that happen with us. If you know, this library, one day, is going to be the standard for St. Croix County. And we are going to be the ones that they come to for help, for whatever it is. And you know, most of you know I'm crazy nuts for this place, and I absolutely love it. That's enough on that subject. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up, and that is the letters in the paper or articles or whatever that comes into the Star Observer. When I worked in this category with other companies, we had to do fact check. Not spell check, fact check. Is that a situation here? Does somebody here on the board check everything that goes out before it goes into print? Because once you get all that negativity out there in the print, people believe it as gospel. If it's in the paper, it must be true. Well, that's not so. That's not a fact. And I don't know if you do that or don't do it. Do you have a PR person that kind of oversees all of your publication, not just with the Star Observer, but we do get coverage over in St. Paul with the press. They cover a lot of things here in Hudson. We made their front page because of the shooting yesterday. Or whatever it was. Yeah, no, Sunday morning. We got on their front page. Not us, but, Hudson. So it's something that if you don't do it, would you consider, including that at some future time? Because we don't need any negative PR. We get enough of it all by ourselves. We don't need help. And Linda gave me the copies of this paper stuff that you all get. I'm not on anybody's mailing list, I don't have a computer or anything. But these things are available to everybody. I don't understand all of it, but it's there. And if it's there, then you can quote it. If it's not there, how do you quote it? You can't put it down. I know I'm asking a lot of questions tonight. Sorry about that. But, it's because I care. And I want to thank all of you again and again and again for all of the unpaid work you do and all the hassles you take from people. I appreciate it. I wouldn't want to be sitting in one of those chairs. Right. I'll sit over here and then I can go and sit down. All right. Thank you for listening. And really, I do. We're going to be number one.
Yeah.
Wait and see. And no, I'm so tired of hearing about River Falls. It's a lovely, lovely library. But so is ours.
Yeah.
This is a lovely library. This is beautiful. We have a gorgeous building. You come down the street and you see this and you light up when you see this building. It is so beautiful. End of speech.
All right, thanks, Gloria. Thanks for
You're
your
welcome.
comments and thanks for all your help.
Now, anytime.
Where would you like me to?
Just right there, I think it's fine. I think, yeah, he can swivel.
All right, my name is James Deline. I'm a resident of Hudson and a landowner also in North Hudson. And I was a little troubled by some parts of a North Hudson meeting that I saw online. And I believe that some untruths were probably spread. Like I said, I'm a concerned citizen, heavy user of the library. I utilize books, magazines, and but I realize that the Moore system is very important to me, and that was what was troubling to me, was that it sounded like some people on the North Hudson board weren't really in favor of the increased cost of the Moore system, and I just want to make it known that it's, you know, utilized by a lot of people. I use it because Hudson doesn't have all the books that I desire or whatever. But I'm able to get them from other libraries. You know, I feel that adequately funding library is an essential community benefit, and it encourages an educated populace, which may be scary to certain politicians, but it's the responsibility of government, just as schools are. Now, not everyone uses library, but they could if they desired. You know, it's kind of the same, it's the same principle that my taxes go to the schools. I don't have any children in them, but it's a community benefit. The main thing that troubled me out of that North Hudson meeting, and I'm not sure who was the speaker or whatever, but they said that a great percentage of the Moore rentals are used for DVD and music. And that it, in essence, put 2 video stores out of business in Hudson, which I believe is patently untrue. They would have gone out of business no matter what, due to the changing world that we live in that everything's moving to streaming. You know, Netflix, Spotify, iTunes, whatever. So I don't think that the library, you know, just because people are using it as a service to rent or obtain music or DVDs, that it's harming anyone financially. Like I said, those industries, the movie and music industries, did that to themselves by failing to adapt to a changing marketplace way back when Napster, you know, came into the movie. And I think that speaking for myself, respectfully, that I get items that I normally wouldn't purchase, that I normally wouldn't purchase anyways. You know, I check out series or movies that I have no interest in spending my money on, but I may watch it and then go buy the next season of it or something, or I may listen to a CD and, you know, listen to that artist on Spotify, which brings them some sort of income, so the artist. So I don't think any retail sales are truly lost through using the Moore system. I don't think that the amount of rental or borrowing really causes great harm to anyone. And I think for myself, I get a lot of use out of it. I'm switching careers and going into chemical dependency counseling, and I've checked out tons of books on self-improvement, psychology, and everything else. And I just don't have the funds or the resources to buy all those things myself, so it's very valuable. And as a personal opinion, I think that possibly costs of the Moore system could go down as we move to a more digital world, as everything starts going to digital. Not everything, but more things go to digital. Books, movies are streamed rather than produced on disc. And as for the financial shortfalls, I realize that costs need to be covered, but I think that it's an invaluable resource that the library provides, and that especially the Moore system, and now the Wisconsin Digital Library provides. And if it's a matter of funding, I'm just putting my opinion out there that if it were deemed necessary, that we're too short on money, that I would be, as a library user, be willing to pay a fee to use the library. It would have to be reasonable, maybe $5 a month, $50 a year, something like that. But the downfall that I see in that being that I was a computer programmer in the past, the development and maintenance of a system to collect the fees and to register people and all that cost could be just as much as you bring in income. I'm not sure how many, users there are who would be willing to pay a fee, but if push came to shove, as a citizen, I would be willing, because I get such value out of the library system that I'd be willing to pay a reasonable fee for it. And yeah, I guess that's all I have. I just wanted to state how important it is for me, and I'm troubled when people who don't make use of the library criticize it for the costs that it incurs, because it does provide a great benefit to the community. Thanks for listening.
James, thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else at this time? No? Okay. Well, without any further ado here, I guess, hesitation, John, welcome. Thank you very much for being here, and looking forward to your comments. I think the entire board is looking forward to hearing what you have to say, and we're looking forward to some answers to the questions that we've had that have come up over the last couple of months.
Okay.
So it's all yours.
All right. I did prepare some information for you just to give you an overview of the library system as well as the Moore system to give you an idea of the organization. The library system is a member-driven organization that's state-supported. Many of our services are available to the library at no cost. And then there are some other services that are available as part of a partnership with our member libraries, because we do not have the resources for all of the services that the libraries desire. One of those partnership services is the Moore service. And
John, do you want to sit here?
Sure. The yellow piece of paper that's in your packet gives you an overview of the library services from our organization that are available to Hudson and all our 53 member libraries at no cost as part of the state-funded services. That's at top bulleted paragraph. The next set of bullets down there are examples of things that we provide to the libraries on a pass-through billing basis. They're group purchases of technology, magnets, additional days of courier, the public performance video license that the library has, as well as the Moore system. The blue sheet gives you an overview of the library's participation in Moore. It is a voluntary partnership between the library system and the member libraries. The Moore budget has two main components. It's the operational piece of the budget, which includes the expenses to our vendor for the software, for the maintenance. It includes some support to IFLS to help pay for some of the costs that IFLS has for that in terms of providing training, circulation staff, and things that are not mandated as core services that the library system has to provide. Our services are mandated by statute in order for us to get our funding. we are not mandated to provide a circulation system, which is one of the components of the MORE system. The other component of the MORE system is the ability to share materials between libraries, which is resource sharing, which is one of our mandated services. The other piece of the budget is the content that's available through MORE, and that content is downloadable types of materials, whether it's ebooks or the music that's going to be available through Friegel and some of the other downloadable type products that are available either to system residents only or as part of the statewide overdrive collection.
May I, and I'm going to ask one question first, okay? How do you want to handle questions? Do you have comments you want to make, and then we'll ask questions later, or do you want to field questions as we
I
go?
can field questions as we go, that's fine.
Okay, one question I have, and maybe you said this prior to the mandate, you said that MORE is mandated?
MORE is not mandated.
I'm sorry, the
resource sharing, the ability for libraries to borrow things back and forth is a mandated service. It's resource sharing. It traditionally
mandated by who?
by the state statute.
State statute, okay.
Prior to the creation of MORE and the shared automation systems, library staff had to, way back when, create paper transaction forms for you to borrow an item from another library. So you would walk up to the library staff and they would manually fill out a 3-part carbon copy document, and that would get sent down to Madison or to Eau Claire, and it take months for it to get back to the library. That process was automated with WSCAT, which is a statewide catalog. The shared systems made it possible for patrons to place their own holds on materials from any of the participating libraries. Those materials arrived within a matter of days if they were on shelf instead of waiting for months. So it's been an evolution for that kind of resource sharing.
I have a question. The items on the yellow page, right, the first page?
Yep.
These items are something that separate from the sharing issue, correct? So these are items that are funded from the state.
The first bullet group is things that are state-funded services, correct?
Okay, so let's
But
say.
at the bottom though,
There are some examples, on the next set of, that says example of pass-through billing, those are examples of things that we do on behalf of our members, but we bill them for them.
Right, but it's the top part,
Mm-hmm,
okay? This is the state funded, okay?
right.
You can separate those two. In other words, if a library didn't participate in the sharing, would they would still get these services, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The very first one, interlibrary loan, is resource sharing.
And-
That's the vocabulary. The very first bullet at the top of the page,
Mhm.
where it says interlibrary loan, that is resource sharing,
And
in other words.
And there are two types of interlibrary loan right now. One is the sharing that goes through MORE, which we help support with a subsidy to the libraries, and I'll explain that a little bit. The other piece is when we go outside of our library system to universities, other public libraries in Wisconsin, and to libraries across the country. We can obtain materials through them, and that's part of our services that we do, that sharing of resources. Yeah. But the piece of MORE that supports the circulation, the collection of fines, the notification of patrons, even the catalog out there, those are not things that are necessarily mandated by statute. Those are value-added things that come along with that automation system.
And that's the part we're built for.
Correct.
John, do you know the statute for these examples of state-funded services?
The goldenrod piece is a part of the administrative essentials, which talk about that Statute, I believe is 4317 or 4315.
All right, that's close enough.
Yeah, it's in there, so one of those two. It's 4315 is standards for public library systems. And then 4317 talks about the general provisions of the library system. So those are the two big statutes for the library systems.
What's your budget for the year? What kinds of budget does your federation have?
Our state funding is about $1.2 million.
State gives you 1.2 million.
Yeah.
And then the fees from the other libraries add in there.
Let's see what
Well, you have
We're
more budget
going-
listed at 700,000.
Yeah, but that's the total budget, then there's the subsidy piece that comes off of that. I think we bill about 500,000, I believe, 600,000. 500 to the library, so totally, we're looking at about 1.7.
What's $1 million for facilitating these services?
For facilitating all the services that we provide, correct. The budget for the operation of MORE is something that's created with input from the member libraries that are part of the MORE consortium. Our staff puts together a draft of the budget based upon what we have for projected cost increases for the software from our vendor. We also have a formula that we establish the payment that comes back to IFLS out of that budget. That formula is tied to increases or decreases in state aid for us. So for the last 2 years, that fee coming back to our organization, IFLS in general, to help pay for it, has remained flat. So there has not been an increase in that. When we put that draft together, we do that in May and give them a ballpark of what we're anticipating the costs to be. We provide a draft of that document to an executive council of MORE directors, which consists of 4 public library directors and myself. They review it, approve the draft recommendation. That draft recommendation is sent to every member library. There is a public hearing where the member libraries can come voice their opinion. After that hearing, any changes or modifications that are made to that draft are then sent to the directors. At the July Directors Council, the library directors vote whether to approve that budget as it is, make any modifications, which could be increases or decreases in the services that they wish to provide in that budget. And that budget is then approved by a supermajority of the libraries, and the library votes that are based on the circulation and collection size of the libraries. So the MORE budget is created and improved in essence by the 49 participating libraries. It is not a document that we are solely responsible for.
What was, can I ask, what was the, the cost to us went up 27% from last year? What was the main reason for that increase?
If you look at the kind of the bright green piece, this is the items that are billable to Hudson in 2014. The the line item in the Hudson budget where it says IFLIT's fees really take into consideration a variety of items beyond the Moore budget. But the Moore budget itself, there's the operational piece, which went up because the library directors voted to purchase a module called Encore, which is going to be a new catalog, OPAC catalog. So instead of the one we have now, it will be more of a catalog that looks and feels like Amazon. It will enhance the searching of related topics within the catalog. So if you were searching, you know, drug counseling or substance abuse counseling, it would pull up magazine articles that are included in databases. It would include books and other resources all in a unified searching pattern. That was one of the big pieces that the directors added at the Directors Council. There is also a module called Decision Center, which helps libraries decide when to purchase materials based on the demands that their patrons are placing for new materials. It also says, okay, the demand's been met, you can stop purchasing additional titles. It also has a much cleaner reporting function for the library so that they can look at statistics in different ways without having to create complex formulas to get those reports generated. Then
That accounted for 27%? No, I mean, I'm trying to understand, wrap my mind around a 27% increase. I mean, that's our budget is obviously not in the best shape, and then we look at your percentage going up 27%, that sent up a red flag for me.
That was a portion of the operational piece. There was also an increase in content. The library directors decided to purchase Frigo, which was a $75,000 expenditure.
What is that again?
Frigo.
Frigo, it's a downloadable music service. Patrons will have access to 3 music titles that they can download every week at no cost to them.
This something they put on their iTunes or something, or what?
They can use it on whatever device that they typically use to listen to music.
Is that a one-time cost? Or is that a subscription?
That's a subscription cost. That would be a yearly cost. This year is the first year that the consortium is using that product. If at the end of 2014 it's deemed that it's not being used heavily, that product could go away. We did have a product called Recorded Books that had downloadable audiobooks, which was not heavily used, and the directors did decide in 2013 to discontinue that product for 2014. So just because it's in the budget doesn't mean it's going to stay in there.
But if it's in the budget, it's in our budget.
It's in your budget for 2014, correct?
How is that assessed? Pro rata?
It's based upon the formula that, based on the collection size and circulation of the library, so it's a percentage of the cost. The Moore budget in its entirety is divided by the formula percentage of the use of the collection size that each library has. That may vary from year to year because that is something that is recalculated every year based on the last previous year's statistics that we have available.
What was the average increase percent per library?
I don't know if,
I'd like to know that, and I'd like to know where we fall on a scale.
I think ours is pretty average, I looked at it, but.
For the Moore cost as a whole, if you don't mind me.
No, go ahead.
Was 39%.
The average was 39%,
Yes.
and ours was 27%.
Does that make sense? I mean, it looked like ours went up 35%.
That's
from your
correct.
figures.
Oh,
Yeah.
35? Okay.
For the Moore cost, there's some other things that are included in your
Right.
60,000 for Moore costs.
The other question that I have is, can a library opt out of certain items, or is it you have to take everything that you offer? In other words, what if we said, I don't think, providing music is a viable service for our, you know, our patrons, something that the taxpayers should be picking up. Is that something we can opt out of?
You cannot opt out of individual components within more that the directors have approved. The More Consortium is a package of products and services that the libraries wish to offer through the catalog. So if they were to offer downloadable books, downloadable music through the More catalog, that is something that all the libraries share the cost in.
How do you get input on that? So you said you're gonna assess this after a year, maybe continue it, maybe discontinue it. Where do we as a group weigh in on that?
You as a
As a
board,
board? Yeah.
that is feedback that you can provide to your library director. Linda has a vote and a voice at all directors' councils. So if there is concern about the product being useful or not, then that's something you can convey to her and she can convey to the group. But the group does vote as a whole body.
Sure.
And it does require 75% of the libraries to pass, and 75% of the vote total for this budget to pass. So it's a super majority of the membership to get the budget passed. So the budget meetings, the library directors spend a lot of time discussing the value of the services that they are providing and the benefits to the patrons. So it's not a simple, well, this sounds good, we're done. There's hours worth of discussion about the budget.
Part of the problem that I have is that your organization, in essence, is driving our budget without a vote from people who sit on this board. So you have the director that goes there, the director, our director, as many of them, sure, don't even have a vote on a budget within their library. Yet they go to your organization and vote to approve this, which drives our budget in the wrong direction, without a say from this board. And that's a difficult situation. This is the reason why you're here tonight. The other thing that I would like to mention, and I've mentioned on this board before, is that I believe it's incorrect for your organization to look at the use of something, simply the use of something, as whether or not it's a viable service and should be paid for by the taxpayers. And I brought up at a meeting that we could subsidize milk here at the library, and people could come and get milk for $1 a gallon, with the taxpayers picking up the bulk of the cost. And I bet we could sell a lot of milk subsidized. So I don't look at, when I look at your music downloads, to me that's a huge red flag already. And I don't see that as a viable service for our library to provide music downloads. If people want music, they can purchase it from iTunes.
Is this a question?
No, it wasn't
I
a
mean,
question. It was a,
You know, you'll have plenty of time to weigh in on your
Mhm.
opinion on whether we should be doing it or not, but I don't, there's no point in making statements to John right now.
well, that was the point I was making. It was about the budget and about the viability of this particular item, so.
Well, obviously,
I'll weigh in later.
obviously, our director is, it represents us at this, so this isn't John's issue, this is our issue.
The other piece of the budget fee that is in there is the shared services program, which is a cost recovery program that we have implemented for our libraries. And again, it's a voluntary project where they pay for staff to catalog and process materials in our office versus having it done by local library staff. And currently we have 4 libraries that are participating in that program, Hudson being one of them. And you are billed cost based upon what you added for items in 2012 and projecting that into 2014 dollar numbers. So if that number will will vary based upon what that actual cost is. The supplies for that program, the covers and the labels and all those things are billed at actual cost. There's no additional charge added to that, so those are just basic supplies that you would have, whether we did that central cataloging and processing in our office or did that here at the library.
You said there are you said 4 libraries that are in that program? That's all?
That's
Four
all right
libraries.
now. This is actually the second year that that program has fully been going.
And 53 member libraries, I'm sorry, 53 member libraries in the what? In IFLS?
In IFLS, there are 53 public libraries within IFLS.
That's all? And what kind of territory? That's
We have
a 10-county region?
10 counties, correct.
53 libraries in 10 counties, and that's all of them? That seems like a very small number to me.
That are participating in the shared services.
Well, that are in IFLS.
Oh, all 53 of those libraries are in IFLS.
Yeah,
Right. But
but there's got to be more than 53 libraries in 10 counties. I mean,
Not public library.
not public libraries, only 53.
Some of the libraries, some of the counties have county systems,
There's,
unlike St. Croix. So it's, a county library is counted as one. It's not the number of buildings.
yeah, Rusk County has a city-county library, which includes Ladysmith and the vast majority of that county, plus 2 other public libraries. St. Croix and Polk County have the most libraries within our organization. Most of the counties within IFLS have 5 to 7 libraries or less. There are more libraries in this side of the state than there are in Eau Claire. And Eau Claire has 4 libraries, or no, 5 libraries in our system.
okay.
No, that's fine. One is with regards to the service that you're just describing, Linda, didn't we vote on that as a separate line item aside from IFLS?
What are you?
For the cataloging?
Shared services.
Yeah.
I look at it as that, yes.
We voted on that separate line item. So to Kurt's point, as a board, we decided we wanted that service. So we're one of 4. Okay. Okay, because I'm listening to John describe what services they offer and have available, but yet we decided we wanted that service. We're paying for that outside of this 35% increase. So that's, I guess it's a point and it's a question. But for John, my question for you is, we just talked about all the libraries of 53, the county versus other libraries. I'm not sure what the total number is. If you, like for instance, you said there's a county that has 3 plus 1 in Ladysmith or wherever. Is that part of the 53 number? But what I'm really confused about, looking at the information that's in the packet you're presenting, is there's a lot of confusion in my mind what the difference between IFLS is and what the difference with more is. And what are we paying more for? Are we paying more for IFLS or more for more?
You are paying more for more. You're paying additional for the more catalog and all the services that are dedicated to that. My salary is paid through state funds. None of the more costs go to pay my salary. Very few of the staff members in IFLS are covered through the more budget. There are a few staff members that are dedicated to the more project that help with catalog training, circulation training, helping libraries with problems that come up, and different things like that, statistical reporting and all those kinds of things. They're dedicated to that project, but the vast majority of our staff is funded by the state, even though I touch the more system because I'm ultimately responsible for supervising the staff, just like Linda's ultimately responsible for supervising the entire library staff. None of my time is paid through the more budget. We do not charge for housing the staff within our office, even though there are organizations that would do that. But those are parts of the benefits that we provide from IFLS in support of the libraries. The cost for more, we try to make it as affordable as we can for our member libraries. You may, when I was a library director in a community of 3,000 in another library system, I was paying $25,000 to be part of their shared automation system in a community of 3,000. You are paying $26,000 for the operational piece of this consortium in a community with a 4 partners municipal population that's over 20,000. So it is a very cost-effective program. We try very hard to make it affordable. We look at the budget, we look at ways that we can continue to make it affordable to libraries. And we try, if there's a better way of doing something, we will do that so that we can keep the costs down. So it gets confusing because there's 49 libraries and more, and there's 53 libraries in IFLS. And the public sees more as a service. The vast majority of our other services, they never see because they're done behind the scenes to keep the technology running, troubleshooting computers, a wide area network, internet problems. That's all done behind the scenes. The patrons don't interact with that part of our services. That's something that is specifically for the libraries.
And at a 35% increase, can we decide to exit more and be in IFLS, or exit IFLS and be in more?
Well, we don't pay for IFLS.
That's kind of where I'm gonna go.
You could, as a library, exit more. You would then have to, and this is me speaking as IFLS director, and what I would be advising Linda, you would then have to figure out a circulation system on your own that would support the operations of this library, including the financial controls, the circulation controls, the networking that would be needed, and the various other components that would make it a viable service for a library this size. You would most likely need to have one staff person dedicated to maintain and operate that service. So
That's not part of IFLS?
we do not support independent circulation systems. We are not required to maintain circulation systems as part of our state funding.
So,
We are that, and that's a portion of more. That is a circulation management, patron database management system, in addition to the tools that share resources. This is an integrated library system. It takes multiple components and puts them into one clean package that the library staff has available to them.
Has anybody opted out of more?
The only one that's opted out of more from the beginning was CVTC. Tech College was part of more when it was originally founded, but they went to a different system with tech colleges, and that predates me as director at IFLS. The only other organization to leave was Polk County Library Service, which discontinued operation because of being discontinued by Polk County.
So they don't have a library anymore?
Polk County has 10 independent public libraries, but they used to operate a county library service similar to what St. Croix County used to do. But Polk County Library Service operated an extensive books by mail program and books by to jail residents and other programs, but the county deemed it not cost effective. And that was discontinued a couple years ago.
And so those 10 that broke away then, they're independent? Is that right?
They were always independent.
Okay.
Those 10 were independent public libraries. The county library service was not a county-wide library service. It served rural county residents with different services. But It's not, it wasn't truly a public library.
Did they opt back into more then?
The 10 public libraries were part of more separate from Polk County Library Service.
To begin with.
To begin with.
But they, so they maintained their relationship with, well, Polk County discontinued their services. All right, sorry, Linda.
What would I get if we pull out through IFLAS? What services would you be able to help us? Let's say we did pull out. We have to find our own internet provider and everything, right?
We would still provide technology support for equipment that is not connected to your circulation system.
Oh, so it would just be a standalone computer you would help out with? That's not on the network?
That would, you would still have the accessibility to network services,
But we couldn't
Depending-
use the catalog?
but you couldn't use the catalog.
So
You
we
would have
to buy
access
our own
to,
cataloging system.
you'd have your own cataloging system, you'd have to manage that network infrastructure that supports that catalog system. You would have to maintain the security that would have to go with that. If you were to offer
We'd have to buy
e-com,
the hardware, we'd have to buy the computers.
you'd have to buy this, you'd have to buy the computers, server, you'd have to provide server space, server room. If you were to offer modules like e-commerce, you'd have to be responsible for managing the certificates that are needed to secure that site. That would be your sole responsibility as an organization.
And that's just one FTE that would handle all that?
In your organization?
Yeah.
Well, I don't, know.
Oh, isn't that what he said?
Well,
Hire an additional staff person?
well,
Isn't a cataloger alone kind of a full service or full-time?
well, the more operational cost that's billable to Hudson is $26,000, so I guess, I don't know. That's less than a full-time staff person. That's your cost. The other piece of the more budget is the content, which are things that people can access, downloadable
Sure.
books and things like that.
The cataloging service that we're 104, is that scalable or is that a fixed cost? Is that when more join that service, does that?
It's a fixed cost because it's a cost recovery. It's not,
So we're not paying more for it just because there are only 4?
Right, so if we were to have additional workload by adding more libraries, we would have to hire more staff to support that. And
Sure.
those costs, based on what those libraries brought to the workload, would be billed based on the workload. It's not billed on anything else, it's based on what we project as the workload of that.
How many systems have contacted you and expressed their concern about their, it's a little different way of putting it, but. Yeah.
How many public libraries have
Have,
expressed
yeah, they're
concern?
concerned about the increase that they've experienced.
I went to speak at the Phillips Library Board because they wanted to understand the process to see what the communication was for the budget. They were not as concerned about the budget number as more so how the budget number was created. And it was more of a communication.
So you're saying 1?
Yes. That's all
Now 2.
Right.
And your cost raised 39% across the board, or average? Average 39%, and you had 2 libraries out of 53 complain about, or express concern.
How often do they meet?
Increases. Good God. Good
The library boards meet monthly. That's the part of this budget it's driven by our members. It's not our budget, it's the member library's budget. They vote to impose the costs onto themselves. So they are representing their libraries at Directors Council and are voting to have a package of services available to the libraries and to the people they serve based upon what they believe their customers are asking for. and the services that they're trying to provide.
If we were to drop out, you would probably assume everyone's going to River Falls and Somerset and New Richmond, would you not?
Maybe Roberts too.
And then my other question, and I kind of forgot it.
Do we still owe money?
I can't remember what it was, but that was one of my questions, because, you know, I don't see how we could manage it.
Well, we still get the library loan, interlibrary loan service according to this
You-
first
you-
sheet.
But it would be a different process than what's going on right now.
Oh, I know what it was.
It would be a more labor-intensive process for the staff.
For who? For you?
Oh, for your
For us?
staff, yes.
We would have to fill out all those forms.
They would have to fill out some sort of request. Most of those are done electronically now, but there still has to be that done. The patrons typically would not have access from their home to do the holds like they do now.
Just real quick, the cataloging, I think I heard you mention that that's somewhat of a pass-through amount that's our actual cost. So if this $25,134, if you find out that you actually did that for less, you would pass the savings back to us the following year, is that correct? Is that a moneymaker for you?
It's not a moneymaker for her. We are paying the actual cost for staff with that. We are not making any profit on that. The staff person is hired based upon the workload, and that workload is then apportioned to each of the libraries, and the wages for that employer are based on that percentage. We are not generating any revenue from that program.
John, does that distribution among the four, is it based on the number of items cataloged the previous year?
It's based on the actual numbers added to the collection in 2012 for 2014. So we're really looking at things that have occurred a couple of years back.
John, can I jump in there?
Sure.
In Hudson's case, it was actually adjusted in that first year because Linda informed me that your collection budget was going to be significantly lower in a year. So in that first year, I did not base it off the last. I adjusted down.
Okay.
It was a rough estimate. And if you don't mind, I continue just
No, go
a
ahead.
bit. In that first year, we weren't entirely sure of how the costs were going to break down. It was a new service.
Right.
And in Hudson's case, we ate about a $5,000 loss because we misestimated. And while we did adjust, and that's why you see about a $5,000 increase for that service this year, it's because it reflects a year's worth of experience, but we did not change the cost in the current year.
Is that where most of our increase came, percentage-wise?
The items that are billable to Hudson, the operational went up, some content went up, and then shared services went up. So there's multiple things that come into play when you're looking at that line item that says IFLS fee in your budget. It's all of those items together, the increases in each of those different items.
We don't have a breakdown here of what they
Yeah, I'd
were.
like to see from last year to this year.
Yeah, that would be interesting, side by side.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can pull it up pretty quick, I have that stuff.
John, on an average, how many items move into our library during the week, one way? I thought I said, Maureen said 5,000. Is that right?
If we look at, yes, the pale green sheet on the back side of it, there's a weekly volume sampling that we do. And there were 5,400 items that moved in and out of Hudson per week. The yearly volume would then be 270,000 items. If you were to mail all those items back, your cost would be $652,495 based on a package that's less than 1 pound with $2.41 library rate.
And that's what we would have to do if we chose to exit more and maintain that level of,
You would still be eligible for 1 day of free courier because you're not part of the Moore system.
1 day a week.
1 day a week.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we already send out tons of bins an hour every day.
Well, I'm just curious, I mean, if we leave more, if you're saying then that this would be a cost to us if we tried to maintain that level of in and out.
You could, my guess is you wouldn't be maintaining that volume of in and out because patrons
We'll go
would
somewhere
not,
else.
would not be happy with the level of service that they're receiving in terms of the.
But let's just say that we did maintain that, then that cost of moving that stuff, we get 1 free day of courier.
Correct.
And the rest of it, we're gonna be paying shipping.
Or you could pay for additional days of courier.
How much is that?
Right now, it's $900 for an additional day for the entire year.
Okay.
However, that is based on volume that is managed. If you were to reduce it to a couple of days and the volume were to increase dramatically, we contract with an independent company for that service, and that price may be adjusted based on what their volume is and the needs of the equipment, the vehicle that they need to provide that transportation.
Okay.
And I cannot indicate what that would be, because that's a cost that's not under our control. That's a cost that the courier has. Our cost per item for that service is about 11 cents an item, one way. Other library systems operate their own courier service, and their costs are approaching $1 an item, which is still cheaper than the $2.41 per package, but significantly higher than what we are currently paying.
So why would they do that?
The volume that those serve, that particular library system, South Central has volume that far exceeds what an independent vendor would be able to manage on an effective basis for them. They deliver to some of Madison Public branches 3 or 4 times a day. Our courier charges us per stop. It does not charge us by volume at this point, and we wish to maintain that relationship because if they were to charge us differently, our costs could astronomically go up. We've had others talk to us about the service. They could not provide the same volume of service at the same cost. We would have to reduce the amount of traffic coming into the libraries, which would then burden the staff and would require additional staff to manage the volumes that would be coming in those days. So we're trying to manage the volume out so it doesn't put an undue burden on any individual library staff.
Can I ask what percentage of these items is videos versus books?
In terms of what?
Well, your average weekly volume, let's just pick that up.
So video, what kind of video? Are you talking about anything?
You still looking for the side by side?
Any videos versus books?
Are you talking
I'm trying
about
to do it one way.
DVDs and audio?
I don't want you to get
Yes.
distracted from that.
You want to
Yes.
look at this, John? I did this here thing.
So it's not really video, it's
That's why
it's print versus other media.
You could break it out by the rest of them if you want, but I'm just trying to understand what the percentage is.
Okay. Before we get too far off track on the previous question, the general operational cost in 2013 for Hudson was $21,884 compared to the 26 that
21, what did you say?
21,884.
What is it now?
26, 342.
342.
The difference in that cost is the purchase of the Encore module and the inclusion of Decision Center in that cost.
Subscription or one time?
Those are subscription based.
Okay, so that's not going down.
Nope.
Okay.
The automation vendors.
Unless they determine that it's not being utilized.
Right.
and
correct.
The Encore module, that's the one you said that would go out and would bring back in all the resources?
It will,
Various periodicals?
it'll bring a better search result, and it's a different look and feel for the online catalog.
And that is actually the latest software in that particular area.
Correct.
It's just come about in the last couple of years, I think.
The Encore product is relatively new too.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Decision Center product is brand new as well. So those are both enhancements to what was available.
Well, people who do use Encore, if you were looking for a variety of resources, as opposed to having to go into all these different sites and gathering information, this will gather them all together at the same time and bring them forward. I know a little bit about this, and it's a huge step forward in law libraries, medical libraries, public libraries. It's a huge step forward. It's some of the very best.
We're missing the one component, though, it seems like. That would be a reduction in personnel costs with the increase in technology costs. I know that most businesses just increase their technology costs and their labor stays the same.
These are software costs that are vendor related. They are not costs, they're not products that will improve the behind the scenes work of our staff that's dedicated to more. It will help library staff with Decision Center create reports for their benefit that will take a lot less time. The old reporter functionality was more like creating an algebraic formula to create a report to generate the information that you needed. Reporter now, as part of Decision Center, is more of let's click terms that everybody understands and is much easier for them to use. So it's going to benefit staff time in the local libraries. It's not going to benefit our staff greatly.
It's an offering to us. That will help,
Well,
that will help our patrons.
It will help the library staff and library patrons.
Yeah. So what is more content last
Yeah.
year?
Last year was $6,168.
And the content again is?
The content is the cost for the Overdrive collection, for the statewide collection. It's Overdrive Advantage, which is titles that are available only to the residents that have a More card. It is also content for Freegal, which is the new service in 2014. And there's also, in the total budget, there's a portion in there for a DVD project, which purchase additional titles for the high-demand DVD, so it doesn't fall solely on individual libraries to purchase it. A lot of those are TV series or some of the real popular type materials. The portion for that is relatively small in the overall budget. That's the DVD project's about $15,000.
The shelf check?
The self-check is the ability for patrons to check out their own materials. That cost does not change.
Yeah, that's not much anyway. Small to good.
Self-checks.
Let me ask this, the DVD collection that you've got, obviously, that's an outmoded form, and soon to go away. Are you gonna maintain that collection?
We do not maintain any DVD collection.
That's all gonna be individual libraries? and-
The collections themselves are maintained by the individual libraries.
Okay.
The only portion of the More budget that goes to physical stuff that's circulated through the Moore system is that $15,000 DVD project.
Is there any discussion among member libraries about that? Because obviously, as people go to streaming, if you want to talk about access to content, that access can go away for those people that are relying on their libraries for DVD content or something physical. I guess that would be electronic.
That project, every year is discussed whether it's still viable to continue to do that. At this point, there's still enough demand and usage to warrant continuing that product or that program within there. But as the demand and need goes away, if it does go to a streaming format that's affordable to patrons, right now there isn't really a good streaming video option available to public libraries that they can provide content to libraries. So, yes, that every component of this budget is looked at every year to see if whether we need to continue, change it, or modify it. Most of the costs for the Moore system have remained relatively at a similar level. It's when, in the last couple of years, it's when we've added product that's above and beyond what we've had in the past. That's where those increases come. And that's something that's driven by the member libraries. The original draft budget that we put together as a staff before it went to the directors for additional input during the more executive meetings and the public hearing was a 2% overall budget increase. The directors determined what additional pieces went into that budget. It's not something that we, as IFLS, say, you have to do this. They decided to do this as a group. In terms of what the percentage of DVD traffic versus non-DVD traffic, I don't have that broken down for the courier volume, but the total number of items that were brought in from other libraries that were not that were brought in from other Moore libraries was about 64,000 items out of a total circulation of 300,000 items. So the circulation for Hudson, about 1/3 of that is DVD or other formats other than books. So that traffic, if you were to assume that 1/3 of that stuff brought in from other libraries were DVDs, you're looking at about 20,000 items versus 40,000 that were.
That's not necessarily a good assumption. I don't think that's a valid assumption. And I'm a little disappointed, quite honestly, because I asked Linda this specific question in November and was hoping for an answer tonight. Because what happens if most of the people that use that Moore system are getting DVDs? I mean, that was a concern that I have, and that I do still have, that a majority of the items are DVDs, and the other concern I have is that it's possibly a redundancy of DVDs. It could be just a small number of DVDs just circulating around and around and back to Hudson, popular titles and that kind of thing. And Linda, I'm sorry you left the room, but John was unable to answer the one specific question I had, which was what is the percentage of DVDs on these items that we get through the Moore system. That's something that I had asked for in November. And here we are 2 months later. I don't think that's a difficult thing to figure out. I think it would be an important thing to know.
And you just want to have
All I wanted to know was what is the percentage of these items that we get through the Moore system are DVDs?
And I'm not sure if that's,
Sorry, just to clarify, you're looking for items that come from other libraries, and only those items, you want to know a percentage of those items are
This is, we
DVDs?
have items borrowed from other Moore libraries, 63,736 items. How many of those were DVDs?
Well, I think, well, whether that's even possible. Yeah.
I guess another way of looking at it is how many do we own?
It was in the packet.
the light green sheet shows that Hudson owns 4,242 video type materials, whether they're DVD or VHS.
So is it circulation that you want to know, or do you want to know how many we own?
No, I want to know how
Because
many.
people elsewhere are getting access to our DVD collection.
Correct.
And we're getting access to other libraries' DVD
Right.
collections. It seems to me like you're most concerned about our expenditure toward DVDs.
Correct. But that part of that is this Moore system. In addition to what we purchase is what we pay for the Moore system. My concern, Don, is and still it has been and still is that, it's a high-priced video exchange, what we see. And, I haven't heard anything otherwise because you haven't given me the number and what it is. And it's a little bit deceiving to say that our costs are only $500,000. Our costs are $1.7 million. That's the troubling thing I have with split funding. The cost of this system is $1.7 million. It's not $500,000 because we pay for it through our state taxes.
You are not paying, the 1.7 does not cover, there's a whole bunch of other services that our organization provides to member libraries that is not related to the sharing of resources.
I'm just talking about the overall cost of this entire system, IFLS and more, is 1.7.
But I guess,
But
but if you want to talk about state funding, Kurt, this is not the place to do it.
No, I'm just saying it's a little deceiving.
You know, I would contact your representative and your state
I'm just saying
senator.
it's a little deceiving, Rich, and I'll talk about what I want to talk
Well,
about.
and I don't know that
You
it's
know,
that deceiving. No, let's talk about things that we have
If you want to
control over
censor me
here.
in the meeting because you don't
No,
like
let's
what I'm
talk about,
saying,
let's
that's
talk
fine.
about things that we have control over here.
I'm just saying it's a little deceiving. If you want to chastise
I
me
don't
for
think it
saying
is.
that,
I think
that's
he was
fine.
very upfront and very forthright in how much the system costs.
Right, what I'm saying is a little deceiving to say that it's only $500,000, it's $1.7 million. That's the cost, not $500,000.
It may be $1.7 million for the entire array of service that we provide, which is vastly more than a circulation system to libraries. We have 53 libraries. Our staff made 432 physical visits to public libraries last year
Mhm.
to provide free services to them, whether it's instead of paying $25,000 to hire a planner to help them create a long-range plan, we did it for nothing because it's part of our services that, yes, our taxpayer supported, but they are done at a cost vastly less than what they would have to do if they were to go out and hire an independent consultant to do that job. We help them better use their dollars in multiple ways. If libraries were to mail things instead of using that courier service, we'd be talking millions of dollars that would be coming out of local taxpayer dollars that are now covered at a fraction of the cost.
I didn't argue that. All I said was the total cost was $1.7 million.
But
I didn't argue, I'm not arguing that. I'm not talking about your efficiencies. You have some efficiencies there. I'm not saying you don't have some efficiencies there of volume. That's fine. All I said was the total cost, that is what it is.
Right.
And
But
the one
it-
thing that I asked for 2 months ago, specifically, the one thing that I asked for is not presented at this meeting. All of this information and everything else, I asked for one thing. That was it. what's the percentage of DVDs?
For Hudson or for system-wide?
What do we get out of the system? What is the 63,736 number? What number is DVDs? I asked it 2 months ago.
And that's $63,000 that you're paying for.
63, the circulation, not 60, that's the number.
Borrowed from other
It's the same, but.
Right. Okay.
That's all I wanted to know.
I have a breakdown of the items that were checked out at the Hudson Library by format. Of the 300,000.
I didn't ask that. And I think
Can I
it's
finish,
I don't want to assume that, you already assumed that.
Can I finish, please?
That's fine.
Of those 300,000 items, 72,000 of those were DVDs. So that number is obviously greater than what you brought in from other libraries. So not all of those obviously are DVDs, because there's a collection of your own materials of DVDs that you're checked out. The typical library has about 70–80% of their total circulation is from local owned items. So 20% of the other types of items are things that come into the Moore system. Even if we were to assume that all of those 63,000 items were videos, the portion, the cost for the entire, your cost of Moore, including the content, is about 13 cents an item. So whether or not philosophically you believe that library patrons should have access to DVDs through a collective sharing of titles that are owned or not owned by the library, it's still a very cost-effective way of borrowing materials. To replicate the 1.6 million items in the Moore system at even $10 an item is close to $16 million. So it's still a much more cost-effective way of sharing resources. So
Can you tell me, do you have the capacity to tell me what the percentage is?
Of what is borrowed from other libraries? I
Do you have the ability to tell me all of these numbers, and all of these figures, and all these statistics, and everything down to the penny, but yet you can't tell me what percentage that number is DVDs? I'm astonished by that, really. I mean, that's just, to me, it's astonishing. You have all this statistics that we could ever hope for and imagine, except the one basic one that I asked for.
Not yet.
I don't know. I don't think I have that.
All right, so the question then is, do you have the capacity to get that number? Not right now.
I cannot answer that with 100% certainty.
Okay? If you can get that number, we would like it.
Okay. I can see if we can pull that information out of the circulation system. That is software vendor dependent, and I will see if we can do that.
How many libraries do not participate in DVD exchange?
Every library shares their collection.
How many do not have a collection of DVDs?
Every library maintains a DVD collection at some level.
Could you give us also information on what the size of that collection is for each of the libraries?
We can determine what the size of their video collection is for each library.
Okay, I'd like to see that.
Are there libraries that opt out of fiction versus nonfiction DVDs? In other words, stay out of the movie rental business and provide a other important information?
I'm not aware of any library that does that. That is a local collection development policy that is subject to each independent library board's determination. But my knowledge of the collection development policies of member libraries, one of their key components is to provide materials that meet the demands of their patrons. And fiction DVDs would meet that criteria. There may be specific review criteria that they also add into that when they're making selections, but that, again, is a local decision. And that we have no control over. We do not set local.
It seems to me that there's a question we're probably going to have to get comfortable with, because the answer to that question might be significant for us, and that is, as a library, is it our intent to respond to the demand of our patrons, or as a library, as a responsibility as a library, to narrow the field and tell our patrons this is all you get?
Well, that's all they get from us.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily
Well,
all
but
they get.
they can go any place else to get what they want. I'm talking about as a library. You know, on one hand, we're going to respond to what patrons are asking for. And on the other hand, and I don't like leaning this way, but it's almost like we're saying, these are the only things that we're going to allow you to
Well,
get from us.
In a sense, we're already doing that with what we've done with our budget.
You know, well, Part
I
B,
mean,
Part B.
Well-
Wouldn't go that far.
But it is, I mean, it is a
we are
question.
leaning toward.
Yeah, I
not
understand
having-
that, but this is, frankly, this is tilting a little more toward, in my thinking, an ethical question with respect to, I'm not gonna allow you to rent certain things or exchange certain things or even ask for certain things from another library. You know, I think we have to sort of get comfortable with one thing or the other. Are we a service trying to respond to the needs of our patrons, or are, of course, in the process, we can limit our service?
Can we put that on hold, that discussion? It's not a question of John right now, and obviously it is a very substantive issue that we are going to deal with. And so, any other questions with John?
I do have a question, probably for Linda too. Of the IFLIS services that are listed on the light yellow page here, how much are we currently utilizing these items? Because these are free of charge, right? And then also the question to you is like, what detail is this? Like when it says website development and hosting, do you like help create the site, help maintain it? Do we just give you changes? And like training too, we're sending staff to training that we're paying for. Is this training that could be utilized through this service? So it's kind of for both of you.
I have used all of the training, and you can have the staff come here and train the group. Technology support, yes. When we have problems that we can't answer troubleshooting-wise, we consult Gus or Chris. Database support, I use that a lot when I create these reports, like the president has been asking for. Hosting, yeah, we can say. Courier, we do get 3 days, and I pay for 2. LSTA grant projects. That one we haven't actively done simply because we've not had enough staffing here to create these grants, because they are time consuming. And we use the consulting.
If I can add to that, Linda, if you don't mind. There are grants that we have applied for on your behalf, including in last year, we upgraded network equipment.
Yep, that yes. Thank you. But no, I take advantage of this.
Utilizing it.
Because simply because if I can have my group be here for training, I'm not paying for traveling. I might pay for an extra hour or 2 of staff time.
So what kind of training were we paying for that we needed to do outside of this?
We sent someone to La Crosse. It was a support staff conference. That's the first time we ever had it. I sent Joan simply because I felt we needed to start having them interact with maybe other libraries and network and find out, yes, I might be requesting, or the board might be requesting, it's okay. And then I went to the one in Madison, or in Green Bay.
Anything else, Ken?
No.
Other questions? You know, I apologize, I told you to hold off for a little bit. You still have a comment, question?
Well, I just wanted to point out, particularly to Mr. Weiss, that the philosophy that working libraries have had for quite a while now, particularly in the United States, but also worldwide, is to respond to the demands and requests of their patrons. So while there might be some demand somewhere for subsidized milk, it's more likely in this case that we're talking about books, audio tapes, DVDs, CDs, any of that sort of thing, because the public is requesting that. So the library sees its role as trying to serve the public and answer what they're asking for. So while I certainly have no objection, in fact, I'd even be curious myself to know the relationship between DVDs checked out versus, say, the traditional book, it's actually irrelevant because the public is demanding that. That's how they see the library, as an information resource. That's why they use the computers here too. Libraries didn't used to have computers, but now they all do, and it's considered just part and parcel of the service, as are DVDs. And they will be until they're replaced by the next new thing. And then that'll be asked for and demanded. So it really doesn't matter.
It might not matter to you, but it matters to our budget. So, I mean, if you run a deficit every year and a library doesn't exist, then you won't be getting any services. This is the reason why I bring it up. We're running a deficit, and we need to figure out how to.
All right,
We're not going to save it by ending DVD.
Right, we're not, this isn't about a discourse here. John, yes?
I don't have a breakdown by library, but there are 127,704 DVDs in the Moore collection total, compared to 1.2 million plus books.
So about 10%.
Right.
But it still doesn't answer the question.
Answer mine.
Because those questions should be, well, I'm glad you got yours answered. But I didn't get mine answered, because what you might see is that there are a number of videos that are just circulating from library to library. Especially the popular titles. Maybe going, we may keep one title, and another library may keep another title and buy more of another title, and another title in another library, and these things are just circulating. And that still is my concern, is that a majority or a higher percentage is videos, fictional videos versus books.
Kurt, once again, you're making a statement to John. That's an issue that we can discuss here. It's nothing that he can resolve.
That was, he brought up a point, and I found the point to be irrelevant, because it's not a 10%, that 10% number means nothing.
He has no control over that.
The 10% number means nothing, though.
And I, based on what I felt might be questions that were brought to me, I did not have any clear written questions provided to me to answer tonight. I provided documentation based on the costs that were associated with the Moore service and why those costs went up. And that is the information that I tried to provide. I did not have a preset of questions given to me to answer tonight. So I do not have the ability to retain everything in my brain. I do not work with this software on a daily basis because that's not my role in the organization. And I tried to anticipate as much as I could. So if there are questions that I could not answer tonight, that's because I was not aware of all the questions that may arise tonight. So we will provide the information if the software does allow us to provide that to you, to give that information specific to Hudson regarding the amount of materials that are coming in to Hudson based on format. and we will do that as soon as we can.
Great. Thanks.
Anything else? Other questions? John, thank you very much for being
Thank you.
here. We appreciate you guys coming in, and look forward to continued dialogue with you.
And I will email that information from Linda as soon as I receive it.
All right. Thank you. Thanks. Move on. Linda.
Oh, yes. Okay. The water damage from this summer is going to be repaired. We're using the very same vendor that we had when we renovated the building. In 2013, our total circulation, when you consider the service population, was 300,000 items.
And where'd you get that number?
That was because it was listed out on the website for the annual report that Indian Head puts some of the information out there for me, so that's where I found it.
So the research for that information is what, some system? Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay. The one thing that I noticed, we had an 80% increase in circulation of e-books. Last year we had, in 2012, we had 7,000. This year we had 12,000. On the first page of my report, you'll notice a picture that looks like this. It says, "Libraries, your holiday helpline." This is the first year I did it. Yes, I did pay $160. It came out of advertising. We were in a minus at the time. This was an opportunity for me to partner with the New Richmond and the River Falls Library, and I went with it. Then I think you asked about continuous orders, or it came up at the last meeting. And during my time as library director in Hudson, I have subscribed to continuous and automatically your order plans. As I noted in my report, the plans help control costs by automatically sending popular titles when the items are published. I don't have to have somebody do it. It automatically comes in. I do plan on discontinuing one of them. It does not meet my expectation. I feel it's sending titles, besides popular ones, they're sending titles that are shelf sitters, and I'm not gonna give them money for that. I am busy programming for February, or setting up programs, and I've included the 3 events happening at the library. The one for sure that's gonna happen is during the during the Hot Air Fair, where the St. Croix Historical Society will be showing the story, history of Hudson. We have been selling the DVDs here at the library as a service to them, and the demand has been where we are calling them and saying we need more copies. I would say we've probably sold 100 or more already. So, okay. I am a member of the WIN project. That's where 3 different library systems, the Indian Head, the Northern Water, or Wisconsin Valley, and Northern Waters, Winding River, are getting together, and we're just discussing. We're not trying to move into this direction yet, but we're looking into combining these systems to see if it's economical for us to do it, if it would be. Can you pass those on, Dan, or Rich? We're just looking now to see if it's an economical thing to do in the future. But this is a layout of all of the library systems in the state, and I wanted to have you just look at that. It's just more informational than anything. That would increase the amount of materials available, and we would have to, right now in my meetings, we're discussing the different couriers, we're discussing having the same collection distribution policies and procedures. It's a very detailed, and it's going to take a while before we actually make even a dent into trying to make a decision.
Linda, I circled that on your report. I thought it was pretty interesting. It'll be interesting to find out if anything else develops out of it, especially after this conversation tonight. with John.
Well, and one other thing is, if we were to combine the systems, could we get cheaper costs on some of, from the vendors because of the size? And get maybe more negotiational power. Okay, the programming communication specialist position is vacant. The yearly wage for this position was $33,000, which included the FICA and the pension. It's going to be the next thing on your agenda. I'm going ahead of time. Here. You want me to?
What was the total cost?
32,000, well, 33,000, and that includes the FICA and the pension. She worked 30 hours a week. The job description for this position includes coordinates marketing activities, publicizing library services, resources and programs for internal and external activity audiences, including press releases, posters, signs, brochures, event program guides, calendars, flyers, newsletter, and reports. She also is the recording secretary for the library board and provide users with a variety of services at the help desk, which includes reference assistance and readers, advisory, working with the Friends group, and also one of the big things that we keep getting asked about is the tech help services she provided. We keep getting, and I just simply say it's not available. Okay. The Hudson Library has always been lean staffing. Today, with 2 people absent, I only had 3 customer service staff available from 10 to 3:15. It was a tough day. Presently, I have 1 customer service person on maternity leave, and we'll have 1 customer service person unable to work on Thursdays for at least 7.5 to 11 weeks. I'm just trying to give you an idea of the staffing situation we have here when I mention these. When a customer service employee is absent on Saturday, I empty the courier bins. And I remember one board member coming up to me when I was working desk one time, and he said, "We pay you to do this?" Well, when you're lean staff, that's what you have to move around. Saturdays are busy, and reference desk and the children's desk need coverage. We need coverage up here. We have families coming in, grandparents bringing grandchildren. We have mom and dad both coming in, and they're sitting down and reading to children. It's a busy morning and afternoon on Saturdays. We rely heavily on a volunteer to shelve audio-visual materials, and she's been gone. So now I'm starting to use library aides who normally check in materials and shelve materials on this level of the building. I am trying to be as efficient as I can with this amount of staffing, but you lose 1 or 2 a day, and you sure do notice it. And I am now adding programming to my list of tasks and had to reschedule my time off to accommodate programming. So I just want you to be aware of it's not an easy task when it's lean staff to begin with, and then you have people leaving, and they have legitimate reasons for not being here.
Linda, can we use the Friends in this situation short term for any of these tasks?
No,
Or are they too
it
complicated?
requires a certain level of training.
Okay.
And libraries are no longer about shelving books. And even shelving books is a training issue, especially when you're in the children's department. There's fairy tales, there's chapter
I know they
books.
offer so much, so I was just like,
Yeah.
if we could temporarily, that would be great.
How long has she been with us?
Who? Yeah.
Alan?
She was started in April of last year.
April of last year. Was that,
2013,
was that a new position?
yes.
So I'm just kind of,
Yes,
okay. What did we do before?
we didn't do anything. We didn't do programming.
Linda, it was a new position, but there had someone else left, and it was a reconfiguration. So it wasn't an addition to the staff, it was a reallocation of staffing.
Right.
The person, I'm not going to say her name, left.
Took a directorship position. And,
So it wasn't it wasn't an increase to the budget?
No,
So it was a break-even deal?
well, and that was the other thing, that's the reason I went with the resource sharing or the cataloging, was to place what staff I do have in customer service positions and not sitting in the back room cataloging when that can be done by someone down at Indian Head and more cost effective, and 26,000. I was having 2 people do cataloging, and you know, if you got 20-hour a week, 10 hours of it is cataloging for one person, 15 hours for the other person, if not 20 hours. We couldn't afford to keep the individuals in that back room and then leave up here empty.
Okay, well, here would be a question I would have for you. Because, I mean, I'm still struggling as a board member to try to figure out a way to make the budget whole, right? We're running a deficit, still running a deficit even after the additional increases from the municipalities. So the deficit I see is $37,437 now. And I've continued that I asked for this to be put on the agenda to discuss, to see if it was a necessary position, as I asked for the people from, you know, Indian Head Federation to come in and talk about that increase. Would you have any ideas as a director, other ways to save in our budget in order to make that $37,000 up? Or, I mean, I'm just, as a board member, new to this and just trying to understand, because what I'm hearing is that this is a necessary position, we have to have it, we can't operate without it, then we're going to be $38,000 in the hole. And I don't know if any other board members have any other ideas. I mean, I'm kind of running out of ideas. As a board, we might be able to save some of this money. Because I'm just trying to figure it out.
I think one of the things I'd like to point out is that at the end of this year, I believe there was 22,000 unspent. A budget is a projected amount, and it doesn't mean you spend it all.
Well, it'd be good not to spend it all, but it also would be good to have a budget that, an anticipated budget that was clean rather than in the hole.
If I were to reduce books and audiovisual, we'd just have to gain probably more staffing because of all the items coming back in. We wouldn't have the titles they want. And I can't stop the people from ordering them on the more system. So that one's, you know, like you can lower it if you want, but you pay someplace else for it.
Mm-hmm.
The budget is pretty lean, I would say. Anybody else notice something that you would want to change? I mean, we have part-time staff. We only have 3 full-time people here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're even reducing some of them to, you know, it's quite a few, only 10 hours a week. So we don't even pay them pension. Then, you want me to talk about Bridge the Gap right away?
Sure.
Bridge the Gap finished this
Did-
year.
Okay,
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Finished the year showing a net of 19,302 donated funds. The number of donors for 2013 was 274.
Versus,
In 2012, there were 333 donors, and we cleared 23,720 in 2012.
right,
Okay?
okay.
And then the last thing under me is my action on library performance review. I have not done my, my own review. I have not had time. And you know, one of the things too, you know, with the staffing gone, and I'm starting to pick up programming, I had scheduled time off, and I've had to change it again, because there is no staff to pick up where Ally is. It's not there. Okay?
Rich,
Yes.
perhaps we could, I don't think it's anyplace else on the agenda with regard to Linda's review.
Right.
So I've asked Linda to complete her self-assessment, and I've handed out to all of you the job description for the library director and the evaluation form that was put together by the personnel committee several years ago and that we're using. So each of you, I would ask that you provide input based on that job description. You can use the evaluation form, you can write on it, you can, if you would like an electronic version of it and would like to respond that way, that would be acceptable. I am going to be out of town for 2 weeks, so while I'd like to say I'd like this back in a week, I guess I can't really. I think by the time of the next board meeting, we should have all the input back, and hopefully have a chance to get together and put together a review. Linda, in addition to her self-evaluation, will document contributions against the 3 goals that were established for her early in the year.
Okay,
And I'll get those out to you, get that out to you all.
okay, good.
Okay? Any questions? I'll follow up with an email to everybody.
All right.
Don't respond to me, just do what I ask, please.
All right, thanks, Barb.
No, you can respond, but don't copy off. So you definitely can respond, but don't copy off.
All right, so next on the agenda is the report from the Friends of the Library. Anybody, Gloria, was she still here?
I think Gloria made her report earlier.
Yeah, I thought she did, but, okay. President's report, request for action. Actually, under A, I don't think that there's anything that we need to discuss there. Under B, the possible action from the Library Leadership Communication Forum, we met, I guess a month ago, in trying to figure out a way that we can get the Friends of the Library, the foundation, and the board involved in fundraising to help us meet this deficit, exceed it, come up with hopefully principal amount that would last for a while and that we could draw from in the event that we will continue to need that. We meet again tomorrow night, and I'll have a report on that meeting at the next meeting. Finance Committee.
The current claims are $60,594.06. They were reviewed by the Finance Committee, and they were approved. We do have a little bit of a problem in cutoffs. Approximately $11,000 of these claims don't have the details behind them, but we did discuss those with Linda, and it does not appear to be anything extraordinary. I will be talking to Neil Saltis to try to get the cutoff more current than what it is today. We do it at the City Council, so I don't know why we can't do it here. So that's one thing we will do as an action item. The
Rich, can you repeat that amount again for me?
$60,594.06.
And we need to approve, you recommend approval.
We recommend approval of those items. Those are the items we need to pay their outstanding bills.
Move approval. I'll second.
All right. Approval of the expenditures, payment of the expenditures moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
2013 year end, as far as we've got it now, and we do have a couple of questions which I will be talking to Neil Saltis about also. There appears to be a couple of entries that are confusing, but as of right now, what we have is revenue for the year of $803,925, which is $5,034 over what we had budgeted. And our expenditures were $818,657, which was $47,000 under what we had projected. And this is what I'll be talking to Neil about. When you take the $803,000 away from the total expenditures of $818,000, you get $14,000 negative, which is where we should be. And then he has an item here that says less donation revenues. And so there is a negative revenue under donations, and we don't know where a negative revenue from donations comes from. If you add that in, you end up $20,000 negative for the year 2013. Yes, ma'am.
It's interesting, I circled this particular line you're referencing, right? And anyway, what is an expenditure control?
I don't know.
These names, I'm just really trying to dig out what the names mean. You got revenue control and expenditure control. They sound like fancy names for something.
And the other problem we have is, if you look at the balance remaining, amount remaining is $42,000, which would lead you to assume that we lost $42,000 if you look at it, and yet we only lost $20,000, and those two columns don't seem to balance out. And so that I have to talk to Neil about why don't these pluses and minuses equal what the line items are saying. There's something not right here in this report. And so I will talk to Neil about that also. So the best we can tell from what with the information we've got is that we lost $20,000 for the year.
When we budgeted to lose 67.
So
that's the important point.
Yeah.
So it was,
So
we've
we've actually saved $47,000 this year.
And
Over what we thought.
maybe more if that negative number is in fact a positive.
Yeah, so we need to clarify, there's several questions we need to clarify.
Nice.
I think I know what's going on there, but you need to get the answer from him.
Yeah,
My
it's-
speculation doesn't
Needed
help.
to stop.
Restricted.
The only thing I'll say about the 2014 budget is, when you look at the budget, and particularly the 2014 budget, 88% of the expenditures are not controllable. So you only have 12% of your budget which is in your control. So out of the 800 and some thousand dollars, $863,000 in expenditures, only $98,000 is actually controllable. The rest of it is just cost that your labor costs are 62%. And the other items are just recurring expenditures. You got the IFLS costs, it's 8.3% of your budget. You got your occupancy expenses are 16.2%. Before you know it, you've got only 12% that you can control.
That's good information. Thanks.
And that's it.
There's one other thing, there was a balance sheet that I submitted with this, for 2014, we're gonna start out with a fund balance of $227,705. Okay?
Did we ever determine, is there a number that we can't go below? Did we ever determine that on that fund balance? Wasn't there a number that?
Oh, for cash flow purposes?
Mm-hmm.
We were thinking somewhere around $30,000 to $50,000.
30 to 50?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we tapped into our 227 to the tune of $20,000.
Or maybe a little less, right?
Maybe a little less.
I mean, if that 6,000 turns around, that's possible. That's a $12,000 swing.
Yeah, but I don't think it will. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
I guess I'm being optimistic.
Excuse me?
Be positive.
Well, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I will try.
But yes,
Yeah.
worst case scenario,
But
yeah,
even 20 is
yeah.
amazingly good.
Bought us some additional time.
That's right.
Exactly. Okay. Dan, did you guys meet?
No,
Okay. Anything to report?
that we didn't meet.
Appreciate that. Barb?
That's the
Oh, we
item
pulled that,
took
we
off.
pulled that, yeah. All right, additional agenda items? Linda?
We gotta start thinking ahead to 2015, where we need to probably upgrade our wireless capabilities where people can print wherever they are in the library. We have not replaced our technology since we started here in 2010. We need to create a replacement plan in, for 2015. Also, we've never maintained any of these carpets here. We need to get some professional cleaners in, and we probably should be getting a bid for that for next year too, for 2015. So do you want to discuss that stuff next time, or
Well,
move forward on?
technology, where does that belong? Is that in the Personnel Policy Committee?
Yeah, that's where it's
All right, so
supposed to be.
let's send it there,
Yeah.
okay? You guys,
There
you
was
guys,
an initial flurry of activity with respect to that policy, but we've done nothing.
okay, well, let's refer it there then for
I'm sorry,
for
I
review.
was-
It's on the wireless connection, our wireless system here.
Upgrade
capabilities like
networking capabilities and
Yeah.
wireless.
printing to the printer downstairs, things like that. Replacing our technology, we purchased it in 2010 when, I think we have to think about 2015, that maybe we need to start replacing some of it. We have not used a lot of that technology money that we've had in the budget. And then the other thing I'm talking about is carpet maintenance. We have not ever cleaned the carpet since we've been here, and that's something we probably should allocate funds for next year in 2015. And I'm just bringing that all to your
Landlord's
attention.
job?
I was wondering about that.
Is that our landlord's job?
Read the lease, I don't know.
Oh, you can ask that question.
Read the lease.
It's,
At least it's pretty.
We
carpet
did it
carpet
in
needs
the
to be
other
cleaned up from
building,
damage
we
from the
didn't have a
roof.
lease. I
Right.
think.
It needs to be cleaned up from damage from the roof.
Well, there's an insurance claim that they might,
The carpeting didn't get
Cover.
wet.
shh. Sorry.
All right, anything else?
Move we adjourn.
Moved, we adjourn, second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everybody.